This file is going to increase, but I don't want to spook you. I don't want to give you too much. It will increase in layers as we go. And so at the beginning, I'm only going to give you one page. Tomorrow, next week, we're going to have 2 pages. On the next page will be the ones that we're going to learn next week. And remember, those will presuppose the ones that we're learning today. And then finally, a 3rd page, and then so on. So by the end, you'll have a 3-page document in which all of these fallacies are stated. I'm going to read out what these fallacies are. Remember, fallacies are mistakes of reasoning, errors in reasoning, things that take us away from the truth. They're not conducive to figuring stuff out. I'll read out what they are. They each have a name, and I've given a description. The name is in bold, then you've got a description beneath. You're not expected to know this description. This is not the point. The skill is not you being able to memorize this. The skill is going to be you spotting this actual fallacy being committed in an actual argument. So let me read out what those are first, then I'll go slowly over each. And you'll notice I've broken them into 2 batches, right? There's the sloppy fallacies at the top, and there's the faulty appeal to expertise at the bottom. Let's just first read out what the sloppy fallacies are, and then I'll go over them one by one. Subjectivism is using the fact that one believes or wants a proposition to be true as evidence for that proposition's truth. Appeal to majority opinion. This is when you're using the fact that large numbers of people believe in a proposition as evidence for that proposition's truth. Appeal to emotion. It's trying to get someone to accept a proposition on the basis of the emotion or emotions one elicits. Appeal to force is trying to get someone to accept a proposition on the basis of a threat. Attacking the person instead of the argument is using a negative trait of a person as evidence that their statement is false or their argument is weak. This fallacy includes using derogatory names. Now, I've changed the names of some of these fallacies to things that make sense. If you had different textbooks and you look at different things, sometimes these have Latin names, so it's kind of annoying. Yeah, sometimes it's called ad hominem, so exactly both. So you might recognize some of these if you've ever encountered them elsewhere. But instead of having a Latin name, attacking the person instead of the argument, that really captures what's going on more than the Latin ad hominem. Would you agree, Bo? Don't you find English more helpful? I'm glad that Bo knows the Latin, but you see that, Bo? So importantly, we're going to agree to use the names I'm putting here, right? So if you know another name in Latin, and trust me, I know them more than you do, argumentum baculinum and all these Latin names, that's great, but it's not a place to show off. We really want to use an English expression or name that captures it, and these are the names that we'll use. So appeal to motion, appeal to majority opinion, and so on, right? And so there's different names that you'll find different elsewhere. We're going to agree on these. And finally, for today, faulty appeal to expertise, sometimes called appeal to authority. But really, appeal to authority isn't wrong in and of itself. And it's not so much authority as expertise that's concerned. And it's not so much that the expertise is wrong, is that sometimes it can be done wrongly. So faulty appeal. This is when you're calling on an expert testimony or when the conditions for credibility are satisfied or the use of an expert is inappropriate. And it comes in different varieties. The issue does not require expertise. The person is an expert, but not in the right field. Is in the right field, but is not an expert. There is no such field, or expert meets the criteria, but is not being objective. And so you'll be expected for this particular fallacy. Notice I've put it in bold here, right? Even though it's like a heading, if you will, for different varieties. I've put it in bold. The full name would be faulty appeal to expertise, where let's say the person is an expert but not in the right field, and then you pick the different varieties. It comes in different varieties, and they're mutually exhaustive varieties, so it's not too much of a problem. So you have to tell me which kind it is. So if you squint here and you look at the whole thing, everything in bold is the name, and everything that's not in bold is the description. And I'm going to go over these today. We're going to spend the whole class going over these. And by the end of the class, you'll know these enough that you can start the homework on your own. So far, so clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. Cool. And the goal is to, again, whenever I've had a chance to make these really applicable, I've done it. I'm in control of the content now. I'm really thinking about the students, not just the old farts talking to one another. Sometimes critical thinking textbooks, they tend to be addressing other authors of critical thinking textbooks more than individual people. Let's start with the first one, subjectivism. So we'll work down this list. Subjectivism is using the fact that one believes or wants a proposition to be true as evidence of that proposition's truth. Now, let me open up a file. Let me open up a file here and share screen it with you. I'm going to work on a Word file. I'm going to give you some examples of what this particular fallacy looks like. Can everyone see? I should have a Word file with an empty grid on it. Can you see that? Type in C if you can see it. Okay, so let me invent an argument here that commits the fallacy of subjectivism. So we can see, first of all, and we'll use the skills that we learned last month, the implicit premises, to see what's wrong with this argument. Suppose I said the following. Suppose I said, I believe that there is life after death because it would be horrible if that were not so. Right? Or I would find it, let me put it even better, right? I would find it horrible if that were not so. Let me zoom out here so everyone can see well. I believe that there is life after death because I would not find it horrible. I would find it horrible if that were not so. What is the conclusion of this argument? Let's start carving it up. Month 1 skills, and then we'll extract the premise. Month 2 skills. I believe that there is life after death because I would find it horrible if that were not so. Lily says, there is life after death. You are absolutely right. And I believe that's just endorsing it, right? So this is nodding yes to this claim over here. I believe that there is life after death. So there is life after death. Why? Kyung? Pourquoi? Richement? Well, because, 2, I would find it horrible if it were not so. Right? And so if I had to number this, what number would I put at the bottom? I'm using my argument diagramming skills. What number am I putting at the bottom? I'm putting 1. Plop this over here in the center. And I'm going to have, as a reason that's been given, my premise is going to be 2. Now, those are my month 1 skills. Now I'm going to use our month 2 skills, and then we'll use our month 3 skills. If I had to extract and use the less formal method here, right? This is assuming something. What is this assuming? Suppose I had to put this over here, and I said, using the less formal method, what is the assumption A that's being made here? In your own words, what's this argument assuming? Oopsie, that's not what I wanted. Borders and shading. I can't, if I find something horrible, it can't happen. Lily, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Someone else try, maybe while I'm doing this, if you find a formulation, maybe we'll see if it can settle on something else. Why am I doing this? Lily's got a formulation. Try another one. Lily's is pretty good. Try someone else. Venture another one. I wanted more options before we settle on one. Using the less formal method here. I'm stalling for time here to find one. So what's another way of saying it? It's pretty good, but I put it here. I'm going to put Lily's. We'll see if someone else has one. If I find something horrible, then it cannot happen. Yeah, probably I'd stick to Lily's. So Maddie, good. Thank you for trying another one, right? And again, let me just kind of give myself additional space here. I'll move this. I'll make a few because I'll have quite a few arguments I'm going to be having fun with. Paste. All right, good. Let's go back here at the very top. So we know these skills now. These are the skills that we've practiced a lot. All right. So I believe that there is life after death because I would find it horrible that it were not so. Let's test if we got this right. So there is life after death. Why? Because um, if I find something horrible, then it cannot happen. And I would find it horrible if there was no life after death. I think we got this. So let's just check using our month 1 skills and our month 2 skills. So far, so good. Proof me, everyone. If everything is good, type in good. If you spot a mistake, let me know because I'm making this up as I go, and I need all my friends to help me out here. We're going to proof each other. Right. Now here's why subjectivism is a fallacy. And I told you I'm going to blatantly commit the fallacy of subjectivism. It's got a premise. And in order for the conclusion to be true, if you want this to be true, then the premises both have to be true. You can't get a true conclusion from false premises, right? So we got to make sure that the premises are actually true. All right, so let's ask the question. Well, is it true that you would find it horrible if there were no life after death? Presumably, you're the authority on how you feel. So if you tell me you find it horrible, I'll say that's true. Fair enough, man. That's true. What about this? If I find something horrible, then it cannot happen. Is this true or false? If I find something horrible, then it can't happen. It's false. It's blatantly false. It's blatantly false. Unless you're God, which we're not, right? It's like there's no way, right? And so this is what's so silly about this fallacy, and that's why it's a fallacy and it's a sloppy one, is because implicitly, if you're going to put forward as a reason for a conclusion some feeling that you have, some personal feeling, you feel real strongly about something, well, who cares? I'm sorry, the truth doesn't care about your feelings, right? Horrible things happen even when you don't want them to happen. So this is wishful thinking. This is the difference between a young child and an adult. You might say, like, I don't want to have cancer. I would find it horrible if I had cancer, and yet you do. Unfortunately, things don't work out that way. The world, the facts don't care about your feelings and your wishes. I wish it were so, does not make it so. And so this is the fallacy of subjectivism. So when you find an argument that has that's invoking this assumption that it is so because I wish it so, right? Then it's committing the fallacy of subjectivism. And you can see how, and let's go back to, let's stop sharing and let's go back to our description. Subjectivism is using the fact that one believes or wants a proposition to be true as evidence for that proposition's truth. And notice we're talking about whether or not the proposition is true. That's all we're concerned with, right? That you believe or want, that's up to you, by the way. So your beliefs and wants, that's why there was a part of these, the premise there where you're reporting on how you feel and what you believe, whatever. That's you got that. That could be true. It's true that you believe in something, but it doesn't make what you believe in true. Let me say that again slowly. Let's say I believe in ghosts. It could be true that I, Mark, believe in ghosts, but it doesn't make ghosts, like the claim that there is ghosts. If I believe the ghosts exist, it doesn't make the claim that ghosts exist true, right? So likewise, it could be true that you want something. It's like, yeah, I want to be a millionaire, right? I want it to be true that Mark is a millionaire, let's say. But it doesn't mean that therefore, par conséquent, Mark is a millionaire. It doesn't work that way. So you can't infer from your beliefs and your wants to the truth of a proposition. Your beliefs and your wants are part of psychology. And that's wonderful, but they're not part of philosophy. They're not going to get you to truth, right? They could happen upon it. I could also want something to be true, and it happens to be true. That's true. That can totally happen. But if I put forward my wanting as the reason why you should accept the conclusion about something being true, that's when I commit the fallacy of subjectivism. I think it's I put the sloppiest one at the beginning of the sloppiest sloppians. I feel like it's one is fairly blatant. Is everyone clear on that one, or do you have a question? If everyone's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. The fallacy is called subjectivism. Let's check in with everyone. If you're clear on that, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. I'm going to take it step by step. I'm going to drink a bit of water here. I'm hearing back from Harmol, Matthias, Lily, Maddie, Berlin, Roman Beer, Allison, everyone's good? Sheila, you got this? It's clear? Okay. I just want to make sure. Because if it isn't, and if there's something you're not sure of, it's important to know. All right, cool. Thank you. All right, so we got this. This is one down, another one to go. So I'm just going to put a little check mark here because we feel good about ourselves. It is done. Let's now go for appeal to majority opinion, often called also just appeal to majority. Using the fact that large numbers of people believe in a proposition as evidence for that proposition's truth. All right, once again, let me share screen and let's use our month one skills because I want to show you how everything ties in together. Let me share screen here. Hello, my hold on. I pressed the wrong button and it's not allowing to share. All right, let's do this. Please let me know it's going to share. Hold on, folks. Let me just close this and reload. All right, let's see if this works. Let's go do this. Where's our sloppy fallacies? There we go. Good. Can everyone see what's on the screen right now? Apologies for the delay. I clicked one wrong button. Cool. Thank you, Lily Gerlin and everybody else. All right, let's do this. So we're doing appeal to majority opinion. Let's make it really straightforward so that you can actually see it. The majority of people believe that, let's go back to there is life after death. Let's go back to that one. Just so we're not very inventive, just you can see variations on that. The majority of people believe that there is life after death. Let's just write it out. There is life after death. Therefore, there is life after death. Right. What is the conclusion of this argument? There is life after death. Agreed. And we'll number this. We've got to number it the way we normally do it. The majority of people believe that there is life after death. Oops, that should be 1. Let's number this 1. And let's number this 2. What am I putting at the bottom of my argument diagram? 2. Why 2? Because 1. Let's just do step by step with our month 1 skills. Fair enough. All right. But it turns out that this has an implicit premise. We know how to use those. So let's cut this. Let's move this here. Let's put our little plus. It's got an implicit premise, which we will letter A. Let's just have some fun with this one. Let's put this in black. Oh, I'm going to do the same mistakes I did last time. Well, who cares? All right, there you go. Whatever. I can finesse the presentation after. All right. Using your less formal method, what's the assumption here? What's A? Yeah, I'm going to go for Harmol's formulation. right? If the majority believes it, if many people believe it, it must be true. Harmel's pretty good. I'm looking at Alicia's pretty good. Naman, you mentioned life after death, so I'll trim that. We want maybe that implicit premise to be more general, to drop that particular topic. If we were color coding, you'd have too many colors in there. So Harmel's pretty good. Harmel's got many people. Alicia's got majority. Um, I'm going to modify actually Alicia's. How about this? Whatever the majority of people believe, it is true, or something like this, right? Whatever the majority of people believe, it must be true, right? Or what the majority of people believe must be true. There you go. What the majority of people, so it's neither of Daman's, Harmal's, or Alicia. Thank you for being generous and sharing. I'm kind of using yours as inspiration for mine. What the majority of people believe must be true. Okay, once again, if you want a true conclusion, you have to have true premises. Is it true that the majority of people believe that there is life after death? Well, I'm not an anthropologist, but I'm almost certain it's true. This is true. Yeah, probably. Yeah, like most people, I think, if you're an anthropologist and you're concerned with recording what people's beliefs are, yeah, cool. Does it thereby make it true? Well, only on the assumption that what the majority of people believe must be true. Well, what about this claim? Let's take this claim A in isolation. Is that true? Whatever the majority of the people believe must be true. Is that true? No, there's no way. Can you give me an example, a counterexample where everyone believes something yet it's not true? Can you come up with one? There's lots. I'll let you come up with one. I don't know if a lot of the majority of people think vaccines cause autism, so that's probably some small subset of people. Vitamin C helps with colds. Take something even more dramatic. Carrots help with eyesight. That's pretty good. There's lots of things people believe in. Lots of things. I don't. We can make an even more dramatic one than that. Like, but I don't know if the majority of people believe that carrots help eyesight. Although they might. I think that's a pretty good one about vitamin C. How about this? The Earth is flat. Didn't we a while back? Like everyone thought the world was flat, right? For a long time. Actually, most humans for most of human history, right, believed that the Earth was flat. Yet it turns out it isn't. And now we go ha 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 silly them, right? But it doesn't. The fact that people believe something. So essentially, the idea is this is subjectivism multiplied by lots of people. If the mere fact that you wish or want something, that you believe something, doesn't make it true, doesn't matter if you multiply the number of Homo sapiens who are believing it, right? So if you take one person and you think, well, their wishes and beliefs doesn't make it so, well, lots of Homo sapiens in a room and put them together, it doesn't magically transform into reality, right? And so this is an appeal to majority opinion. Now notice that it could be that there is life after death, but it's certainly not going to be established by this argument. So importantly, it's not so much that the premise is false. It could be true. We haven't established whether it's true or false, but it's certainly not getting its truth from these two premises. Even if this is a true premise, most likely, I would say it's a true premise. The majority of people believe that there is life after death. Yeah, I know enough anthropology to sort of track that. Yeah, I'm almost certain. And whatever the majority of people believe must be true. That's definitely not a true proposition, right? And so if you're going to justify this argument, you have to justify it way better than that. Like, let's say we're doing philosophy of religion or whatever in another course. You could arrive at the conclusion that there is life after death. Right? My favorite argument for why there might be is like, I don't think there's life after death, but if you had to ask me what's your best argument, like, when I was in my mom's belly as a baby, like I could have easily have imagined that this is all there was to existence, like just floating in a broth, everything's warm and it's quiet and there's these muffled sounds. But out I went into the birth canal and I came out and this whole other thing started called, my life. It could be that when I die, for all I know, I'm right now in another womb, right? I am convinced this is it, but when I die, I'm actually going to be pushed out of another birth canal and, get into some other things. So it's probable, I don't know. It could be, but this is my best argument for why there could be life after death. And notice how I'm arguing, and the way I'm arguing is not committing a fallacy, and it would yield a probable conclusion. Oh, that's legitimate. I got no beef against the conclusion itself. But the conclusion here is poorly supported because it's committing a fallacy. And it's pivoting on the idea that whatever the majority of people believe must be true. And that's clearly fallacious. That's clearly wrong. Can we all see that? If you can see that, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. And we're doing great. I'm looking at the time, and I think we're all following along. So far, so fun. How are you enjoying this fallacy stuff? We're only 2 out of 20. We've got like 1/10 in, 10% in. How you like this kind of stuff? I feel like I've left the best for last. Like, you've earned it. I've made you do all the hard work first. I find this really useful, and yeah. And can you see? I would hope. Can you see how this links in with our other skills, right? Like, now we know what a premise and a conclusion are. What we mean when we say I can talk about a premise being true even though it doesn't relate well to the conclusion and so on. So good. All right. So that's another one. Let's do appeal to emotion. Appeal to emotion is trying to get someone to accept a proposition on the basis of emotions one elicits. All right, let's do a version of this. Once again, let me share screen this. This time I'll do it right so I don't have to redo everything. I've given myself a little grid here. Hold on. All right, let's make an appeal to emotion. Let's say, what can I do? Let's say I say gun laws are good. Did you see that poor man's bleeding gut when he was shot violently at point blank range? His innards were all over the place, and he was calling out for his mommy. What's the conclusion of this? And again, it's an argument, I'm sorry to say. What's the conclusion of this argument? Gun laws are good. Gun laws are good. That's number one. And then you can imagine all of this. It's hard to see how I'm going to carve this. I'm going to give it just one big chunk here. I'm going to say it's a portrait or picture of some sort that it's describing. Sometimes you can have the appeal to emotion actually can just literally be a picture. Okay, so there you go. So the conclusion is one. Let's put it at the bottom. And why one? Because two. And what's two? I mean, did you see that poor man's bleeding gut when he was shot violently at point blank range? His innards were all over the place, and he was calling out for his mommy. I mean, notice how I'm putting a lot of detail here. I'm trying to make it, the way I'm writing it is, this is not medical language. This is gore. This is horrific. It's supposed to move you. The way I'm writing it is supposed to be like, oh man, that's horrible. Poor guy. What the hell, right? All right. Why is this a fallacy? Well, okay. So what's the conclusion about? It's about gun laws. All right, fair enough. So if you had to put a topic, put a color. So, all right. So let's put this here. They're good. Okay, cool. Fair enough. I understand what you're saying. They're good. Does any of that show up here? Orange and blue? Does any of talk of gun laws and being good, does any of that show up in two? Yes or no? Look carefully. You have to put the colors. There's no such thing. Right? This is not actually arguing for the conclusion. This is not arguing for the conclusion. What it's doing is it's trying to get you to feel really strongly, which it probably succeeds. I don't know about you. If I write well, it should be disturbed. And then while I've got you, sneak in a conclusion. Now, again, the conclusion might be true or false. It may be true that gun laws are good. It may be false. I don't know. But certainly you can't establish it on account of this argument. If you do this, then you're committing, right, what the fallacy called appeal to emotion. And that's substituting an emotion where there ought to be a reason, right? It's substituting an emotion where there ought to be a reason. And emotions are not reasons. We feel them. And again, there's nothing wrong with writing stuff out. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, we have creative writing classes precisely for that reason. Language, images, documentaries can elicit emotions. We all have emotions. We're psychological beings. There's no escaping that, right? But this is not a psychology class. It's a philosophy class. And when we're concerned with making progress on questions, we want reasons. And so just moving someone's emotions and then capitalizing on their strong feelings to then promote a certain conclusion, right? That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. Can everyone see that? If you can see that, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. And again, I'm trying to be clear that we have emotions, right? That the majority opinions are things that we do have wants and beliefs and stuff. Like all of these things are there. Question is, can they be mobilized as premises in support of a conclusion? And the answer is, well, no, right? Let's do another one, appeal to force. And we've got two more of the sloppy ones. Let's do appeal to force. Appeal to force. Again, let me share screen. I'll actually, before I do it, I'll read it. Trying to get the proposition on the basis of a threat. All right. Again, sometimes there are some Latin names for this. I'm going to use names that I think are very descriptive. All right, let's do this. If I say, support this gun ban, otherwise I will dox you. How do you spell doxing? Like when you release someone's personal information, is this how you do it? D1X, doxing, right? When I say just I will dox you, am I 2 X's or 1? This is a piece of language that 2 X's. Yeah, I will dox you on social media. And suppose I say, okay, let's ask, what's the conclusion? And it's actually in the form of a command, but like if I'm going to number this, right? Support this gun ban, and then I will. What's the conclusion? 1 or 2? So 1, right? All right. So support this gun ban, or you could write it out as you should support this gun ban, or this gun ban ought to be supported, or something like this. All right, fair enough. Why? Why what? Well, because if you don't, I will dox you on social media. All right. How about this? I'm going to write it. This gun laws are, how about gun laws are good? Gun laws are good. That's the same conclusion we had here, right? Gun laws are good. And I think, and I'm going to put it here, I think you should agree that gun laws are good. So I support this conclusion that gun laws are good. If you don't agree, I'll dox you on social media. I think you should agree that gun laws are good. If you don't agree, I'll dox you on social media. In your own words, what's wrong with this argument? Why is this a fallacy to do this? How would you describe this? Like, this is bad. This is a bad move. Why is this a bad move? Explain to me in the chat. Try it. Figure that out here. I mean, again, they're sloppy fallacies. I think we can all see why they're bad. Let's try to put into words why this is bad. Yeah, it's threatening to support for your conclusion. It's threatening you. Threatening is bad, right? But here's the thing: if you want to compel, if you want to compel someone to do something, Threatening can work. I'm sorry, it works, right? But it's a threat as a substitute. I like what Harmel and Indevere wrote. It's a substitute for a reason. I can threaten you, put a gun to your head, the 2 + 2 makes 5, and you go, yes, 2 + 2 makes 5, but it doesn't thereby become 2 + 2 makes 5, right? The threat, it can alter your behavior, but it can't alter the truth of something. The truth is what it is. I mean, if you go back to the Earth being flat and the Earth being round, Galileo was put on trial and he was compelled by the Inquisition, right? There was a threat. He had to literally agree that the Earth wasn't round. And it wasn't well, in this case, not so much round, but circling around the sun. But yet it was. His reply in Italian was "E pur si muove," yet it turns. You can put him under house arrest, but the truth of the thing is unaffected. And the actual conclusion here is gun laws are good, which they might well be, but certainly not in virtue of this argument. And it's still an argument, as bad as it is, right? But it's an appeal to force. It commits the fallacy of appeal to force. And we want to recognize it as an argument, but we want to recognize it as a horribly poor argument because now we have the vocabulary to say it. It commits an appeal to force. And if you think, by the way, that these are just made up, one of the things that's going to happen when you learn this month 3 skill is you'll go back into the world and you'll be like seeing these fallacies everywhere, right? You'll agree, and so let's just check it out here and read it again. It's trying to get someone to accept a proposition on the basis of a threat, right? And that the proposition gets its truth on the basis of some fact of the matter about that the proposition picks out, not in virtue of what what other Homo sapiens threaten to hurt other Homo sapiens in some way. Doxing would be a form of harm, right? A threat. Are we clear on that one? If that's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. That's why the first rule of philosophy is leave your guns at the door. Reason doesn't work under compulsion. So, by the way, this is one of the cool things. I would never sit down and discuss anything with anyone who didn't pass this course with good grades and get 3 credits in critical thinking, because these are the conditions for a meaningful conversation. It's not clear that if we resorted to these fallacies, we'd ever make progress on anything. Finally, attacking the person instead of the argument. And again, this has this can have a Latin name. In some, it doesn't matter. I think this is a better name. We can all understand what it means. It's using a negative trait of a person as evidence that their statement is false or their argument is weak. This fallacy includes using derogatory names. All right. Let's have a look. Let's share it. So let's suppose I say, hold on, let me give myself an extra one because I'm going to run out. I'm going to make up an argument again, and I'm going to have some fun. Can we talk? Should we do the gun ban again? Let me see. I'm trying to make one up, and we're talking about attack on the person, right? Gun bans are good, and the only reason anyone, or the only reason you disagree is because you are a redneck, a redneck neocon, I don't know, macho cowboy who already owns one, who already owns a gun. There you go. There's no threat here. What's the conclusion? So if I had to number this stuff, what would be the conclusion? One or two. Gun laws are good, or gun bans are good. Yeah, cool. Gun bans are good. Why? Because you're a redneck neocon macho cowboy who already owns a gun. So let's put the conclusion at the bottom here, right? And notice here, sometimes this is called a circumstantial right here. If we had to use technical jargon, and you're not expected to know the technical jargon, but I obviously know this stuff a lot. So this is combining actually two fallacies. It's an ad hominem and a question begging epithet. This is biased language, a redneck neocon macho cowboy, right? And this is a circumstantial ad hominem. It's pointing out the fact that you already own a gun, right? It's saying like you could also just stop there. Like you can make versions of this and they would still be the same thing. Like you could just stop at whatever this means, redneck neocon macho cowboy, right? That would be one version. Or you could just say gun bans are good and the only reason you disagree is because you already own a gun. These would all be versions of it. And notice how what's common to this is it's talking about two, whether it's this enlarged one, right, or this trimmed one where you just call someone names, or this other one where you just point out what they own or not own. All of these things that are happening in two pertain to the person. They're not tracking an argument. They're just talking about a person. Right? So two is a description of what the person is like, a horrible one, negative portrayal, and also a description of what the person happens to own. But none of that actually constitute a defense of why gun bans are good. There's no actual engagement with the conclusion, right? So the conclusion, these reasons that are given, they just attack the person. They're attacking the person instead of the argument. And again, maybe gun bans are good, but the fact that you own a gun has nothing to do with whether or not the gun bans are good. You could legally or illegally or whatever. None of that is affected by that, right? Kind of like, and likewise, even if let's say that person is whatever this means, or a redneck neocon macho cowboy, whatever that is, and I don't know anyone who'd want to identify that way. That's such poor language. It's so derogatory. But let's say that's true. It's still what does that do to lend support to the conclusion that gun bans are good? Like absolutely nothing, even if it were true, right? So when you attack the person instead of the argument, then well, aptly enough, you are committing the fallacy of attacking the person instead of the argument. I would argue you see this a lot. I'm sorry to say, especially in politics, but it is a fallacy. Okay. Are we clear on that one? If we're clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. It's irrelevant. Like the person might have the negative traits in question, importantly. Just like, I'm sorry, let me scroll up. Remember earlier, I wanted to make it clear that it could be true that you actually believe something. It could be true that you actually want something or you wish it to be true. But the question is, does that actually lend its truth over to the proposition? And the answer was no, it doesn't lend it. And likewise, it could be true that large numbers of people believe something, but the question is, did it lend its truth to the conclusion? And no, it doesn't. It doesn't lend its truth to the conclusion. Likewise, it could be so that in fact, you elicit a strong emotion. It's a strong emotion. No one denies it. But the question is that grounds for accepting the proposition? And no. And notice what I'm granting at each step here, right? Let's say, yeah, you do. It does elicit strong responses. Like when I see a picture of a slain child or whatever, it's how am I not disturbed? I'm a dad. And maybe your threat gets someone to do what you wanted them to do. So maybe it did work, right? Your threat worked. It was effective. But the question is that grounds for accepting a proposition? The fact that someone just was so scared that you'd hit them or that you doxed them or whatever, that doesn't make the proposition true, right? It doesn't carry over. It doesn't spontaneously transform it. And likewise, maybe the person, in fact, who knows, right? Maybe they are in the position that you claim that they are, or maybe they merit the derogatory names. That they have the negative traits and they merit these derogatory names. But the point is, none of that is actually evidence that what they said or anything else is said is strong or weak, or it doesn't affect anything. It's irrelevant, right? It changes it and it focuses on the person. And so these are the sloppy fallacies. I think they're the easiest ones in many ways to spot. And you certainly want to make sure that you can't like eliminate them completely from your life. If you at least I'm going to be a fellow traveler with me as a seeker of wisdom. These have got to go. And I think we'd all benefit, like imagine social media, everything, if we all, and you'll see for all the fallacies, but certainly that's the first order of business. It's like get that done. So these are all things to avoid. And I've tried to take him step by step so you can see why they're so bad. And I think it's easier to group them like this and just by calling them the sloppy ones because they're that bad. The other ones will be trickier. At one point you can see yourself committing them. I don't think unless you're on somewhere where like Twitter that incentivizes bad behavior, I don't think anyone would do that. Although you get some really fancy documentaries that will do this, right? The appeal to emotion and some stuff like that. That's still not an argument. Like a documentary can move you and convince you of a mistaken conclusion. Are we clear on this entire batch here? I'll break it into two patches. We're like 156. We got one patch done. Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you've got a little thing that's dangling, let me know and we'll tie it up. And then your job, again, these are 5 insects, and then you'll have to spot them in the wild. You'll have to spot them in the forest, right? All right, let's scroll down now. The last thing I want us to work on today is appeal to expertise. And notice I call it faulty appeal to expertise. Sometimes it's called appeal to authority, but when we mean authority, we don't just mean like the authority of a police officer or something like that. We mean what we really mean is expertise. So I think it's better to just use a word that we actually mean. And it's not wrong to rely on expertise. In fact, you're relying on expertise right now. Like I'm supposed to be the expert, which I am, and you're relying on me to tell you what the major fallacies are and why and how they're structured. And that's perfectly fine. We have a division of labor in our society. You all are doing majors because you're going to assume a certain place in the orchestra of our complicated economy. And if you're playing the violin, then you're not playing the drums. It's a different place, right? So if you're going to be a lawyer, then you're not a medical doctor. And if you're a medical doctor, then you're not an Uber driver. And an Uber driver is not the chef, the cook. And so we all have different things we do. And of course, it stands to reason that we know what we do best and the others that don't. And then sometimes we have credentials that go along with that. So there's titles associated with this. You can't just show up and be a dentist in the same manner that you can start cutting hair. Even cutting hair, you need a permit, but I don't know that there's a degree for that. Although you could probably take a course. I'm sure there's some college that offers a degree. But the idea is expertise is fine, but it can be faulty. And it's faulty when you're calling on an expert testimony when the conditions for credibility are not satisfied or the use of an expert is inappropriate. And this comes in 5 varieties, and I'll expect you to spot which ones there are. Let's go step by step. Let's imagine the issue does not require expertise, right? So let me do this. Let me Swiss. Which one was this? Let me just do the guns one. That was attacking the person, not the argument. Attacking. There's nothing wrong with attacking an argument, by the way. Attacking the person instead of the argument. There's nothing wrong with attacking an argument. Arguments are just propositions. There's nothing wrong with attacking them. Let's go now for what we said was expertise is not needed. Let's imagine someone says, oh, I don't know. Here we go. Let's go back to the one that I believe that there is life after death because Paul is an expert in the great beyond. I believe that, and then 1, there is life after death. Because Paul says so, and he is an expert in the great beyond. Right? Can you have an expertise in life after death? Yes or no? No, you can't have an expertise in life after death. You can have an expertise in dying. So people who work in hospitals and hospices where people are dying, presumably I mean, you can only die once. So as far as that's concerned, or at least twice if they reanimate you, right? But that's not expertise. It's just maybe firsthand experience, right? But you can have expertise in life after that. There is no such expertise. I'm sorry to say it, but on that front, we don't know, right? And it's certainly, there's no one who can claim to have been beyond death and be an expert at it. There is no such field. If they do, they're a shyster. They're selling something to you. No one can pretend to be an expert. That's not a field in which there is expertise. So if you're going to ground your belief that there is life after death, certainly try to find a better argument than to rely on the alleged expertise of Paul, that who says so and claims to be an expert on the great beyond, whatever the great beyond is, right? There's no such expertise. It's not like, even if we wanted to, like, imagine, even if I wanted to build a program in life after death studies, I couldn't. There is no such field, and there cannot be any such field. It's even stronger than that. Not only is there no such field, you can imagine there could be Saturn studies, right? Right now, there are no studies called Saturn studies because it's just astronomy. But imagine we start, let's say, or like Mars studies. Let's say we start colonizing Mars. We could have Mars geography or Mars historians or Mars whatever, right? If we start colonizing, there could be. But in this case, not only is there none, which there isn't also for Mars studies, there cannot be. So clearly, this is a case where this is inappropriate, and it's inappropriate for the following reason: that the issue does not require expertise. It's not that you can't make progress on that, but it's like no one can actually be an expert on this. So if you're going to make some progress, it's not by consulting an expert. There's no expertise in this. Actually, this looks like there's no such field. This is the one I was doing here. Sorry. So we're doing such field. So what you want to do is you go back here, and again, I'm making these on the fly. You go back and you write, suppose this was the question. You'd say faulty appeal to expertise. There is no such field. There you go. That will be one. Let's just pause. Are we clear on that one? We got one down, 4 to go. Are we clear on that one? If that's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. Can't claim expertise on this. No one can claim. There is no such field. All right. The other one in the vicinity is the issue does not require expertise. All right. So let's do that one. Let's do, and again, share screen my Word file. I go back and forth. So far, so good, by the way. This is working out great. Faulty appeal to expertise. And what did I say I would do? Issue does not require an expert. Issue does not require an expert. It is sunny outside. The meteorology. Yeah, actually, it is sunny outside my open window. Let's make this even more dramatic. It is sunny outside my open window, as I mentioned at the outset of the class. Why? Because the meteorology guy said so. Well, look, I'm sorry, meteorology guy. Sometimes I need to consult you, but this is not one. I can see it's sunny outside my open window, right? I don't need to consult you. So it's a faulty appeal to expertise because the issue does not require an expert. This detour into expertise that I'm doing with my premise number 2 here is not required. Actually, anyone can assess the truth or falsity of this, right? I don't need to do that. I can say it's sunny outside my window because I see it, because my window's open, and come on, it's common sense, just look out, right? But we don't need expertise for this. Not that there is no such thing as an expertise in meteorology. There is, but not to this particular issue. Is it in fact sunny outside right now? You don't need a meteorology expert for that. You might need a meteorology expert for figuring out whether it'll be sunny tomorrow. right? That's not available to you in the same manner that opening your window and staring out is, right? But you also need an expert to figure out whether you have two arms and two legs. And they're things that don't require experts. Let's not call in experts if we don't need to. If you do, you're committing a fallacy. It's faulty. You're appealing to expertise, but it's faulty. What's the fault? Is it doesn't require an expert. Are we clear on that one, my friends? If we're clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. We did this. All right, cool. Let's do this one. Person's an expert, but they're not in the right field. Again, let's share screen this. I want to do a faulty appeal to expertise. Is an expert, but not the right field. All right, let's have a go. Let's imagine you say, I need new glasses because my philosophy prof told me so. All right. Well, my philosophy prof, I'm an expert, but I'm an expert in philosophy. So I am an expert. And if you want to support the conclusion that you need new glasses and you're going to make it hinge on my telling you so, my expertise, I'm afraid to say, only has a limited scope. It carries weight only in the domain that is proper domain, right? And so the fact that I'm a philosophy prof makes me an expert. I've got degrees, trust me, I know my stuff, but I'm not qualified to tell you whether you need new glasses. So here's a situation where the appease to expertise is faulty. Even though I'm an expert and I could provide the degrees to prove it, it's not the right field, right? Given the nature of the conclusion, and you have to look inside here to see what the conclusion is, right? I think that's a fairly straightforward one, but it's good to make the step-by-step distinction. Is that one clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you got a question, ask your question. Is an expert, but not in the right field. And again, this could get people confused, right? Like you can imagine if I'm at some cocktail party, right? If I was dishonest, like someone says, is there a doctor in the room? Like someone drops with a heart attack. Yes, I'm here. And I come with my philosophy degree to help reanimate the person. You can get away with a lot. Unfortunately, when you're an expert in something, it does lend an aura to what you're doing. I mean, I remember, was it seeing a video on YouTube? It was, I think, Jordan Peterson and talking about global warming. I don't know. Last I checked, he was a professor at Harvard and U of T in psychology. He's got degrees in psychology. He's a therapist, clinical psychologist. That's not nothing. He helps people that way. But I don't know what makes him an expert on that other particular topic for which you'd have to be like a climatologist or something. So this is an instance where he's an expert, but not in the right field. Right. That's not to say that the conclusions coming out of his mouth necessarily are wrong, but if they're going to hinge on his expertise, and it's hard to see, why they weren't being framed as such. Hey, look, I've got these big nifty credentials, but are you in the right field? Otherwise, it doesn't carry a drop of water. And I'm also sorry to say that a lot of people who are natural scientists, physicists and cosmologists and astronomers and whatever, often talk about philosophy, and they sound like complete idiots because they don't know what they're talking about. But they're experts, just not in the right field. Right? Let's do is in the right field, but is not an expert. Right, let's do that. And again, I like that I'm going back and forth between like this PDF and this Word file. I just feel like it's nice variety. All right, let's do faulty appeal to expertise in the right field, but not an expert. And let's now go back to our glasses. Optometry, is that what that is? When we talk about glasses, is that just what you would study at KPU or whatever elsewhere? Optometry? I need new glasses. Okay, cool. Because my sister, who is a first year optometry, Well, I mean, who's first year? I was going to say in her first week. Let's make it even worse. But let's say you need the degree, right, to be an expert. Who is a first year optometry student told me so. Right, my sister, who is a first year optometry student, told me so. Well, that's a big improvement over philosophy if we're talking about whether you need new glasses. Good. All right, optometry. But what the hell do you know? You're a first year student. There's a reason why we won't give you a permit and a license, right? You're not an expert yet. Maybe you're training yourself to be an expert. That's great. You all are going to be, I'm hoping, an expert in something. So you'll have something valuable to offer society, and you can ask money for it, and you can feed your kids. That's good. But you're not an expert yet, right? So, and again, this could be confusing, right? You can imagine, and you could imagine seeing this. And you kind of, if you're not paying close attention when these fallacies happen, you might be hoodwinked by them. You might actually go, oh yeah, it's a good argument. But then you have to stop, and that's what I'm hoping to teach you. It's a critical thinking class, right? To think more critically. You have to stop and you have to say, oh, slow down, slow down. Yeah, I get that your sister's taking optometry, but she's just a first year student. And for all we know, she's failing all her classes. She's just paying tuition and parking fees, but she sucks. Like she's horrible and she's confused, right? It's like, all right, that's like, who cares, right? Like you have a student card and you're majoring in something. Like get in line, man. Everyone's got a student card that's majoring in something. That doesn't make you an expert. So that's a fairly straightforward one, but I think it's useful to have that distinction. Is that one clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you got a question, ask your question. Again, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of explaining these clearly. So I'm kind of proud of myself. I'm making these up because I like the feeling of the freshness when I make stuff up on the go. All right, let's do expert meets the criteria but is not being objective. All right, so let's do a expert. Let's do a faulty appeal to expertise. Meets criteria but not objective. Meets criteria but not objective. Let's say I need new glasses, and because the optometry doctor who looked at my name on an email list told me so. Let's say who only looked at my name on an email list. This is an optometry doctor. All right, cool. So got the right field. That's good. He's a doctor. He's an expert. Whether you need new glasses. Oh, no, sorry. You're right. I didn't. Thank you, Armand. All right. Thank you for letting me know, Armand. Cheers. All right. So here we go. Can you see it, Armand? Thank you. All right. All right. So here we go. So I need new glasses. Well, fair enough. Why? What's your reason? Well, I'm going to invoke an expert. It's an optometry doctor, so that's cool. Optometry means we're in the right field. Doctor means we're good. We've got expertise, and whether or not you need new glasses, that's a technical question that requires some expertise. And how he only looked at my name on an email list, and he said, "Yep, you need it because your name is Harmol, right? That sounds like the kind of name that needs. Like right now, all I can see from you is your name on a list." I go, you know what? You look like the kind of person, Armand, that looks like something. I think you need some glasses, right? We'll hold on here, right? It isn't because you're a qualified expert that everything you do is perfectly fine. You could be like making stuff up. You're not being objective at all, right? Presumably the optometry doctor would want to test you, meet you, go through a battery of tests and so on. So this is a case where it's faulty appeal to expertise. You think, well, it's checked all the other boxes, it would be fine. But no, you can still have the possibility, right? You still have the possibility of just saying, hey, making stuff up. So Harkaran says, what's the process to meet in office hours? At the end of class, my friend. When I say class dismissed, office time begins. Is that cool, my friend? Stick around. Yeah, I'm always there. I'm happy to help out anyone because I've got the expertise, and I moreover I love you, and I'm being objective. Cool. Harkaran, does that help? Everybody else, let's check in. Expert meets the criteria but is not being objective. Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask your question. I'm hearing back from Lily, Maddie, Matthias. Everyone good? We got all these 5? The whole set? Looking good, looking good. All right. So let me zoom out here. We've got them all. How are you liking this? So this is week 1 of this new skill. How are you enjoying this stuff? It's going to be a lot of work, but can you see how this is relevant? I'm going to slowly transition you to your homework. I'm going to make that available right now. I love this stuff. I think it's really cool. I feel like I saved the best for last. And the thing is, if I would have done this at the beginning, you'd be too excited. I really want to make sure that we do the tougher parts first. Not tougher, but drier. This is going to be tough. So don't make no mistake. It's going to be tough because then you have to spot it on your own. Actually, just to get a sense of how tough this is going to be, can everyone go under the homework? Can you look at fallacy practice? Look at the questions. You should have the homework. Type in yes when you've downloaded it. As soon as you click it, it should download. Type in yes once you've downloaded that. Make sure everyone's got it. Jamal, Lily's got it. Make sure Gerline, everybody else, Indivir, grab it and let me know you got it right away. And have a look and open it. I'm going to show you what it looks like. You've got the file as well. Again, I really want to make sure that we're always extra clear on these things. Let's look at the questions. Share screen that with you. Hold on, people. And the idea is you've got 8 pages worth of arguments. Now, I'm not asking you to diagram these arguments. Your job is to just find out what fallacy is being committed. All right. So, and you need to, there's a right and a wrong answer to this stuff. So you read the whole thing, right? And you can write it, you can print this out and you can write it underneath if you want. There's no space specifically for you to write this stuff. And try to use not try, I'm requiring you to use the exact expression. So the things that we just saw a moment ago, if you're going to call something, appeal to emotion, don't just write emotion, right? Appeal to emotion. You can give yourself write them out once and then you can paste it for exam day or whatever. It's not a big deal. I want us to remember those labels. And if there's a sub distinction, then you put comma. So you go faulty, appeal to authority, is an expert, but not in the right field or something like that. You've got 8 pages worth of those, and they're all kind of randomized. And they cover the 10 fallacies that we've looked at today. And not so much 10, but 10 in all, right? So essentially, faulty appeal to authority is one fallacy. If you look at this, I put it in bold because it is a fallacy, but it comes in 5 varieties. So right now, for this week, you've got to commit to memory 10 things. So 5 sloppy ones and 5 versions of this. And then you need to practice on spotting them. And if you ever want more homework, this is the troubling part. Just look out into the world. You'll always find more homework for fallacies because, as you're going to find out, and every student invariably discovers this when they take this course, like we are making fallacies left and right. So Indivir says, for the test, we will have to memorize all the fallacies. Yeah, you can have access to the sheets that we're looking at. You'll have a 3-page PDF. That's like a summary sheet, if you will, a cheat sheet, but it doesn't tell you how to apply it. That's you. So you're the missing link. So you've got this, there's going to be a 3-page document where they're all listed with a small description on the bottom. I don't care, right? That doesn't do the work for you. The work is you having the judgment to find out which applies and as opposed to the others. Yeah. And you can see you're the link between those things. So you got your sheets here, right? You've got the actual argument here, and that's you doing the connection because you got to know which one of these many, and you're going to have 20 to choose from, right? Which of these 20 actually applies. So think of it as a multiple choice test with 20 questions each time, right? And there's 26 letters in the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, and so on. There'd be lots, right? And you need to know their names and you put it on. Knowing the names is easy. You go back to the sheet. That is it. That's what's going to look like for the homework. That's what's going to look like for the quiz. And that's what's going to look like for the test. And that's what's going to look like for the rest of the semester. And I'm not going to ask you to do argument diagrams and extract implicit premises. Today it was fun, though, that I tied it in. At least I hope you thought it was fun, that you can see the big picture. And near the end, I'm going to show you how we could really combine these things, because you can have an argument diagram that's complex and the fallacies are occurring at specific spots, not everywhere in the argument diagram, and I'll show you how to spot that. So you have a big picture of how everything comes together in the course, and what the toolkit looks like when you know the whole thing.